Imagine standing in the pouring rain, um, totally at peace, just completely soaked to the bone.
Right, like ruined clothes, freezing cold.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And meanwhile, there's this highly respected physics professor watching you from his porch, and he is just convinced you have completely lost your mind.
like you belong in an asylum.
Yeah. But why might that exact scenario, standing in the rain, looking like an absolute lunatic to the outside world, why might that actually be the ultimate sign of sanity?
It's a wild thought.
It really is. Today, we are pulling apart a transcript from a 1986 philosophical discourse. It's titled, Beyond Psychology, Your Mind is the Judas.
Such an intense title, by the
Right,
way.
absolutely. And it's this 107-minute session that essentially just dismantles everything we think we know about human nature.
Yeah, it argues that our, desperate attempts to build a solid identity and be quote-unquote responsible citizens are actually the very things keeping us divorced from reality.
Right, so we're going to explore how you can be entirely connected to the universe, yet completely individual. We'll look at what true responsibility actually looks like when it's not a burden.
And we also get into this incredibly unconventional, frankly bizarre psychological cure for breaking nervous habits.
The bizarre cure is maybe my favorite part. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are presented with this massive, seemingly impossible dilemma right out of the gate. How can a person be told that to reach true understanding, they have to disappear into the oneness of existence, like a drop of water into the ocean, but in the exact same breath, be told they can only fulfill their being in deep, solitary aloneness?
Yeah, it's a huge contradiction. But what's fascinating here is that the paradox only exists because we are trying to process it with the wrong equipment.
Meaning our brains.
Well, the mind specifically. We use the mind to try and solve this riddle, and the mind is fundamentally like a biological sorting machine.
Oh, right. It evolved to just categorize the world to keep us alive.
Exactly. It's constantly saying, this is food, this is a predator, this is me, that is you. It operates strictly on an either-or logic.
So you're either an individual isolated in a room, or you are part of a massive collective crowd.
Yes, and the mind simply cannot hold both of those concepts simultaneously without short-circuiting.
But that sorting machine is entirely constructed, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we aren't born with this rigid categorization system intact.
Far from it. The mind, at least as it's described in this discourse, is a borrowed mechanism. It's a societal construct that gets handed down to you.
Like by your parents or teachers or just culture in general.
Exactly. It is an artificial layer sitting on top of your actual reality. The heart, on the other hand, and we are using heart here to mean pure, unpolluted perceptual existence, not the organ pumping blood.
Right, right.
The heart operates on a both-and sensitivity. It doesn't analyze or categorize. It just perceives.
It just takes things in.
Yeah. And from that viewpoint of pure perception, being one with the universe and being uniquely yourself aren't contradictory states at all. They are just a single phenomenon being viewed from two different angles.
You know, I was thinking about how to visualize this, and it feels like the difference between a patchwork quilt and a solid rock.
Oh, I like that.
Because what society calls our personality is really just that quilt. You get, like, a piece of fabric from your mother's anxieties, a piece from your father's ambitions, maybe a piece from a teacher's praise.
A piece from your favorite TV show, even.
Exactly. You stitch it all together into an ego and call it me. But it's incredibly fragile
It can tear at any moment.
because there's no underlying unity to it. It's highly divisible.
Which is funny because the linguistic root of the word individual is crucial to understanding this.
Wait, really? What does it mean?
Individual literally means indivisible. It cannot be broken apart.
Oh, wow. So your true individuality is the solid rock.
Yes. When the idea of disappearing into the universe is brought up, it doesn't mean your physical body vanishes into thin air. It means that fragile, artificial patchwork personality, that quilt you've been dragging around, has to be dropped.
The ego has to disappear.
Right. Once that artificial boundary dissolves, what remains is your true individuality, which is inherently part of the natural world.
See, I struggle with this in a practical sense, though. Because
Yeah.
it's one thing to sit in a room and logically agree, like, oh, sure, we are all stardust, or the ego is a construct.
It's very easy to just intellectualize it.
Exactly. But how does someone actually feel that profound, indivisible connection in everyday life without just tricking themselves into feeling enlightened?
Well, the physical sensation of that connection is beautifully captured in a memory the speaker shares.
This is the rain story, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before he became a well-known spiritual figure, he was a university professor, and he
Yeah.
lived on this quiet street populated by deans and department heads.
Like a respectable neighborhood.
Very respectable. And at the very end of his street sat this massive Bodhi tree overlooking a deep valley. During the monsoon season, whenever a heavy rain began, he would just walk out of his house without an umbrella.
Just totally exposed to the weather.
Right. He would walk slowly, deliberately down the street, getting completely drenched just to stand under this specific tree.
And the neighbors watching this from their warm, dry verandas must have just thought he was having a breakdown.
Oh, they absolutely did. They gathered on their porches to watch the, madman. But there is a brilliant, highly specific detail about this Bodhi tree.
Okay.
Its leaves are shaped somewhat like cups, so when the monsoon rain first hits, the tree actually acts as an umbrella. The cup-shaped leaves catch and hold all the water.
Oh, I see.
But eventually the water gets too heavy. So long after the actual storm has passed and the rest of the neighborhood is completely silent and dry, the Bodhi tree begins to rain.
That's incredible.
The leaves start spilling their water. And for an hour or more, it is just pouring underneath those branches. That is the moment he would go stand under it.
So he wasn't rushing out of the rain in a panic. He was actively seeking out a deeper, prolonged experience of the environment.
Exactly. He wasn't separate from the weather. He was participating in it.
And didn't one of his neighbors end up having a revelation about this?
Yeah. One of the neighbors observing this routine was an elderly, highly respected physicist. He was the head of the department and had actually been a close colleague of Albert Einstein.
That's a serious academic right there.
Totally. And this physicist eventually started attending the speaker's lectures. Why? Because he realized the mysticism being described was echoing the bleeding-edge discoveries of modern quantum mechanics.
Because when you look deep enough into a microscope, the solid boundaries between objects just disappear.
Right. Matter is just vibrating fields of energy interacting with other vibrating fields.
So the physicists realized the mystic's heart approach was fundamentally more accurate to reality than the everyday logic of the human mind.
And years later, before this physicist died, he actually sent a message saying he was returning to India specifically to see the speaker.
Wow.
He understood that the separation we feel, the idea that you end at your skin and the rest of the world begins, is a pure fabrication of the ego.
There's a reference to the philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti that really drives the mechanics of this home.
Oh, yes. The observer and the observed.
Yeah, Krishnamurti talked about how the observer becomes the observed. Like, if you look at a truly breathtaking sunset, there is a fraction of a second where you are struck speechless.
You're just totally absorbed in it.
Right. In that microscopic window of time, you forget your separateness. You aren't a person looking at a sunset. You just are the experience of the sunset. You're in the colors.
But then a second later, the sorting machine kicks in.
Exactly. Your mind says, wow, what a beautiful sunset. I should take a picture of this.
And the moment the mind speaks, you've separated yourself again. You are back in the box of the ego, alienated from the experience.
It's so frustrating how fast that happens.
Well, the mind can speak, but knows nothing of reality. Well, the pure perception of the heart knows everything, but cannot articulate it.
I get that, but, and this is where I get stuck, if you actually manage to drop that patchwork personality and merge your perception with the universe, doesn't that just make you passive?
How do you mean?
Like, if I realize I'm just a leaf on the cosmic tree, why would I care about paying my rent or taking care of my community? It feels like an excuse to detach from all responsibility.
It sounds like it should lead to apathy, sure, but the psychological mechanism actually works in the exact opposite direction.
Really? How so?
Authentic detachment from the ego means a total unconditional attachment to existence. If you deeply realize that you are not separate from the world, then your responsibility to it doesn't vanish. It grows exponentially.
Oh, interesting.
But the nature of that responsibility changes. For most of us, responsibility is, a heavy, anxious burden. It's a chore we perform to maintain our respectability.
Right. Paying the bills, showing up on time.
Exactly. But when you drop the ego, responsibility becomes a joyful expression of gratitude. It transforms into reverence.
Reverence for existence itself.
Yes. And to illustrate the sheer scale of this reverence, there is a story about the ancient philosopher Mahavira, and a disciple named Goshalak.
Goshlag was the really logical one, right?
Very strict, very arrogant logician. So they are walking together, and Goshalak is trying to prove a philosophical point that existence is passive and weak.
Okay.
So he uproots a small plant and tosses it aside. He essentially says, look, I have destroyed this plant. What can existence do to me? It cannot fight back or reverse my action.
It's the ultimate ego-driven power trip.
Just completely arrogant.
Attempting to prove your dominance over a tiny, defenseless piece of nature just to stroke your own intellectual vanity.
Mahavira warns him that acting against the flow of existence will only backfire. And then they leave the area to go into a nearby town.
And then the storm rolls in.
Yeah. While they're away, a sudden rainstorm softens the soil. The wind blows the discarded plant back upright, and its small roots manage to take hold in the wet mud once again.
That is wild. Nature just completely bypassed the logician's arrogance.
And when they return, the plant is miraculously rerooted and alive. Mahavira's reaction is severe. He immediately severs his relationship with Goshalak,
So it cuts him off completely.
refuses to travel another step with a man who holds zero reverence for the cosmos. For Mahavira, nonviolence wasn't just a rigid moral commandment written in a book. It was a lived physiological reality.
And that reverence isn't just reserved for living things with a pulse, which is what I find so fascinating. It extends to the inanimate world, too.
Right, the story about the sitar player.
Yes. Dr. Ross Bihardis. This story perfectly captures the profound lack of inner tension this state requires. So Dr. Bihardis lived alone in a large bungalow, and he invited the speaker to live with him.
Okay.
Now, Dr. Bihardis had a habit. He woke up at 3 a.m. every single morning to play the sitar.
And he wasn't practicing for a concert or anything?
No, he just played out of pure, overflowing joy.
He had maintained this habit for 70 years, apparently.
70 years. Meanwhile, the speaker had a habit of his own. He loved to read poetry out loud late into the night, often until 3 a.m.
So you have a total collision of habits under one roof.
Exactly. And Dr. Bihardis handles this conflict in a way that defies all normal social conditioning. He doesn't assert his authority as the older professor, doesn't pull rank as the homeowner and demand the younger man stop reading.
What does he do?
He simply says, our habits are dangerous to each other. I love you, but this will kill us both. So I'm leaving the house to you.
He was going to move out.
He had such a profound sensitivity for another person's reality that he was entirely willing to make himself homeless rather than force his will upon someone else.
That level of sensitivity is rare enough, but it was his interaction with everyday objects that truly reveals his inner state.
This part is amazing.
If Dr. Bihardis accidentally bumped into a chair while walking through a room, he wouldn't just curse and rub his shin. He would stop, turn to the chair, and sincerely apologize to it.
Wait, out loud. To a piece of furniture.
Out loud, he would say, she is part of this whole cosmos, and she has served me, and I have hit her.
That's unbelievable.
It wasn't a performance either. It was a genuine acknowledgement that the wood in the chair and the bones in his leg were built from the exact same fundamental material of the universe.
But okay, to any outside observer, apologizing to a dining chair looks like clinical insanity.
He definitely looks crazy.
Or Mahavira's extreme begging conditions. We haven't mentioned this yet, but Mahavira would fast for days on end, trusting the universe to feed him.
Right, the 13-day fast.
Yeah, he fasted for 13 days because he set an impossible internal condition. He decided he would only accept food from a chained princess.
Which sounds completely deranged.
Right. So how do we draw the line between a profound, enlightened sensitivity to the cosmos and someone who is simply suffering from a severe break with reality?
Well, the line is drawn by examining the internal friction of the individual.
Internal friction.
Yeah. Clinical madness is almost universally accompanied by immense internal tension. You see paranoia, fear, and a desperate struggle to maintain control. The person is basically at war with their own mind.
Oh, that makes sense.
But figures like Dr. Bihardis or Mahavira exhibit a total, complete relaxation. There is zero internal friction.
Even when starving for almost 2 weeks.
Exactly. When Mahavira starved for 13 days waiting for a handcuffed princess, a woman named Chandana, who, incredibly, had actually been chained by her angry father, the king, and ended up offering Mahavira food, he wasn't tense about it.
He wasn't sitting there panicking.
No, he wasn't punishing himself. If the impossible condition wasn't met, he would simply accept that existence didn't require him to eat that day. It is an absolute, unwavering trust in the flow of reality.
But the vast majority of us do not possess that unwavering trust. I certainly don't. We are plagued by internal friction.
We're constantly anxious.
Yeah, we are anxious about our jobs, our relationships, our standing in society.
Yeah.
We don't have that perfect connection to existence, so we desperately need coping mechanisms to handle the dread.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it explains why we cling so fiercely to our habits. There's a fascinating exchange in the source material involving a 25-year chain smoker.
Ah, yes, the smoking guy.
This man comes to the speaker and says, "Smoking prevents me from going deep into meditation, but no matter how much willpower I exert, I simply cannot quit."
And what I love is that the speaker doesn't lecture him about the health risks or treat it as a moral failure. He looks at the psychological mechanism underneath the habit.
Right. He suggests that smoking is a subconscious regression to infancy.
It's basically an adult trying to simulate the feeling of sucking warm milk from a mother's breast.
The psychological reasoning there is that as human civilization has accelerated, children are weaned earlier and earlier to preserve the mother's ability to work or maintain a certain physical appearance.
So the natural biological process is cut short.
Exactly. The child's biological longing to drink from the breast is abruptly interrupted, and that leaves a psychological wound of tension that never truly closes.
So decades later, the stressed adult finds a cigarette.
And the physical shape of the cigarette, the action of pulling from it, the warmth of the smoke hitting the throat, it all subconsciously mimics the warmth of the milk and the safety of the mother.
The cigarette temporarily reduces a stressed, overwhelmed adult back into a relaxed infant with absolutely no responsibilities. It is a literal pacifier.
That's exactly what it is.
So if you try to use willpower to crush the habit, you are basically using your ego to fight your ego. The patchwork quilt is tearing itself apart, which only generates more stress.
And what happens when you have more stress?
The inner child screams louder for the pacifier.
Precisely. Willpower attacks the symptom, not the root cause. So the speaker offered a cure that sounded completely absurd to the students at the time.
This is the bizarre cure I teased earlier.
He told the man, "Do not repress the habit. Repression is like putting a lid on a boiling pot. The pressure just builds until it explodes." Instead, he told the students to go out, buy a baby bottle, fill it with warm milk, hide under their covers at night so no one could see them, and drink from it.
Just fully embrace it in secret.
Or, failing that, simply suck their thumbs as they fell asleep.
Fulfill the root psychological need directly without the dangerous adult substitute of the cigarette.
And while they laughed, the ones who actually tried it found that their desire to smoke naturally withered away.
Because the need was met.
Right. By addressing the deep psychological longing of the inner child and providing it safety without shame, the symptom vanished. There was no grueling battle of willpower required, because the tension that created the habit was completely dissolved.
Wow. So the cigarette is just a tool to mask nervousness. And it isn't just smokers who are nervous, right?
Not at all.
The text points out that the people who appear the most in control, like high-powered politicians, CEOs, public figures, are often the most terrified.
They live in constant fear for their respectability.
Yes, they are terrified of saying the wrong thing, making the wrong move, and destroying this carefully curated image they've spent their entire lives building.
And the speaker contrasts that political nervousness with his own demeanor. He freely admits to being contradictory and notorious.
He kind of leans into it.
Because he has dropped the pursuit of respectability, he has no image to protect, he has nothing to lose, so he experiences zero nervousness.
Nervousness requires an artificial image that you are desperately trying to hold together.
Exactly.
That dynamic is perfectly encapsulated in a joke shared to the text. I love this one.
Oh, the bishop joke.
Yeah. So a bishop in a prestigious New York church is walking through the sanctuary when he suddenly encounters a hippie who looks exactly, undeniably like Jesus Christ.
It's just a spitting image.
Right. The bishop completely panics. He runs to his office, locks the door, and calls the Pope in Rome to ask for instructions on what to do.
And the Pope's reaction?
The Pope thinks for a second, also completely panicking, and finally says, "Do only one thing. Look busy. Look busy so that man cannot see your nervousness."
It's delivered as a joke, but it is a devastatingly accurate psychological diagnosis of modern society.
We are all just walking around looking busy. That is the mechanism. It's not really about the nicotine or the chewing gum or constantly checking our watches.
No, we use these physical actions as socially acceptable adult pacifiers to occupy ourselves.
If we stop looking busy, the noise fades, and we are forced to confront our own existential dread. We are terrified of being caught empty-handed by our own minds, realizing that our patchwork personality has absolutely no real foundation.
We use the symptom, the busy work, the habit, to cover the nervousness, which is itself caused by the fragile ego trying to prevent its own collapse.
Okay, let's bring all these threads together.
Sounds good.
The mind is a societal construct, a sorting machine that acts as the Judas, betraying our true, indivisible nature by chopping the world into either-or categories.
Right.
But when we drop that artificial quilt and embrace the heart's pure, unpolluted perception, we don't just float away into nothingness. We actually develop a joyful, radical reverence for the physical world around us, whether that's standing under a Bodhi tree in the pouring rain or recognizing the shared stardust in a wooden chair.
But when we lack that deep connection, the tension builds. And rather than addressing the root cause, we rely on nervous symptoms to soothe our inner child and frantically look busy so the rest of the world won't see our panic.
So what does this all mean for you? Think back to Krishnamurti's observation. The observer becomes the observed. Whatever you pour your attention into, you begin to merge with.
And that has huge implications today.
If our analog personality is already a fragile hodgepodge of societal expectations, what does that mean for our modern, hyper-connected digital lives?
It definitely forces us to examine the tools we use to look busy today.
Take a hard look at your online avatars, your perfectly curated social media feeds, your professional networking profiles. Are those digital personas just an even more fragmented, even more artificial layer of personality that we constantly update to endlessly look busy?
A quilt made of pixels instead of fabric.
Exactly. And if the observer truly becomes the observed, by staring at those artificial curated digital feeds for hours every single day, are we slowly becoming a reflection of a reflection?
Wow.
Are we pushing our true, indivisible selves so far out of reach that we wouldn't even recognize our own reality if we tripped over it?
It's a heavy concept to chew on.
It really is. Take a moment today to step away from the noise. Drop the patchwork personality for just 5 minutes, stop looking busy, and maybe just go find a tree to stand under in the rain. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.